Okay, so two important things that I did today. So first of all, this morning I had an interview with Tennessee Stands, Gary Humble, and they are going to post that on probably later this week. I did an interview with Dr. Denise Sibley in East Tennessee, and she is a doctor who is treating COVID patients with ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. And she's also kind of involved with the group of doctors out there that have found that there have been obstacles to them treating with those medications, and they're trying to be more vocal. We created, or somebody who's helping us, put together a website called TN Freedom Doctors. I also brought up in the interview that I'm very active in child welfare reform, and medical freedom is one of the issues that we have in child welfare reform as well. So I got a chance to talk about that. Excuse me, just went out to dinner. So that was very important. So that took this morning. So this afternoon I headed down to the Tennessee General Assembly, and I have a bill that wonderful Rep. Terry Lynn Weaver put in for me, and it got shifted around quite a bit, but I had asked for a bill for a family advocate to be appointed to work with the parents through the process of the DCS open case and investigation, right? So there's a guardian ad litem statute, and the guardian ad litem statute in Tennessee is 371149, and the guardian ad litem statute also provides for the appointment of a CASA worker, court-appointed special advocate. And so I took that statute and I added a section in that statute for the court to appoint a family advocate. And so Terry, who's a teacher and has incredible experience in education and works a lot of education bills, agreed to take it. Carrie Roberts, the senator, agreed to take it, but they both told me it's like, I just don't know a lot about this area. Well, the truth is that a lot of people in the legislature just do not understand how DCS works. And every year DCS comes in and asks for more money, more money, more money. Oh, there's so many children. Oh, we're trying to protect safety. Oh, it's the best interest of the children. Oh, we want to be the greatest adoption state in the country. That's our new governor's mantra. He wants to be #1 in adoptions. I think I'm going to have to go talk to him, because truly he does not understand it, and sadly he's probably getting some money from these private contractors. So we did this very simple bill. So I asked that a family advocate be appointed by the court to work with the family, kind of be side by side with them throughout the administrative process and the court process, and somebody who's trained in basically the policies and who just knows the magic key words and the lingo, because the parents don't even understand. So I've kind of had to explain that system to them. And so then it ended up being DCS got involved, and of course DCS didn't like it, so they switched it around, and they said a family member could be appointed as a family to advocate for the family. And I'm like, well, that's not always going to work, because family members are not going to be that educated on what the parents need to know. So I could tell it was truly like a stumbling stone here. It was like truly like, okay, you're just like trying to totally mess this up. And so I had, oh, excuse me. Oh, little springtime out here going on. They just cut my grass today, so got a little grass pollen in the air. Sorry about that. So they tried to just kind of mess with it, and I went in, I talked to her. And so I had sent an email to Mary Littleton, who's the chair of the committee, on Friday, asking to speak today. She didn't get back to me. And so I just told, Terry said, well, maybe I can have you speak. And she's like, we got to give notice. And I said, well, I've already given notice that I wanted to speak. I just didn't hear back from her. So you have that email. So I went, and and Terry presented it, and I met with her ahead of time. And I said, you don't understand, and DCS does not understand. Yeah, DCS does not understand that this is well, they do understand it. They just don't want to share it, that it's an adversarial process from day one, right? It's adversarial. I said it's an adversarial process for parents. Everybody in the DCS system is adversarial to the parents. All right, thank you. And thank you, Darcy. So, need a career change foster parent. Okay, yeah, something like that maybe. All right, so she went into committee. She did a great job. She did ask for me to be able to speak. So they gave me 3 minutes. So I am going to, they're videotaped. So I'm going to go online tonight and see if I can screen record it on my phone and share it with you. And then the DCS attorney got up, and he kind of like shoveled around. He didn't really address the question about the adversarial role between DCS and the parent. And a couple of the questions, the bill had an immunity clause in it, and I'm like, we don't even really need the immunity in it because that's not the role they're taking. And then also there was another, about CASA. And I said, this is different from CASA. CASA has a very limited role, but what CASA does is basically when they're assigned to the case, they do their own investigation, and then they may go to the parent's home, and then they write a report, and then they don't do a whole lot more. So they don't really work with the parents to make sure that the parents are encouraged and working the plan if they need to, or getting their proper witnesses provided to their counsel if they need to have witnesses. So CASA is really, I mean, it's kind of a child safety role. I mean, they started as advocates too. And so then they were asking questions about what kind of training are they going to have. And I wanted to say, you know what, look, CASA started with just a statute, okay? They didn't have any training program. They didn't have anything. They started with volunteers, and they just says, we're just going to help. And I said, you know what? All you need to do, Terry, is say, what can it hurt? What can it hurt? Well, the DCS attorney did get up and say one key thing, and he says, well, we don't really want anybody interfering with our investigations. Well, I'm sure you don't want anybody interfering with investigations, but you know what, parents? I mean, if somebody's being investigated for... need to check out homes before dropping off kids in the middle of the night. Exactly. So, you know, you need, if somebody, a cop calls you and says, well, we want you to come down and talk to us because somebody said you stole a car. I mean, you're not going to just do it without some type of legal advice. And it's the same thing with DCS. It's like, no, you know. So you need to have some type of representation or somebody who is supporting you. So those are two very important things. So what we did is they, you know, a couple of them asked questions, and it's okay, because you have to understand the General Assembly, it works very fast. You try to get something in there, and the first time it kind of rolls around, they kind of like, they don't understand what's going on, you know, when it's something this new. So we passed it to first call of the next General Assembly, because they're going to be finishing up here in a couple weeks, and then we will work on the bill, and I will get that training program put together. I pulled a bunch of stats and stuff, so I will tell you what some of those stats are, because I think they're pretty important. And I know DCS and some of my stalkers are probably going to be watching this, so let me tell you some of the things that I brought up. Okay, so hang on here. Ooh, it's getting dark too. Sorry about that. All right, so here's some of the stuff that I've got a little list here that I put together for her, and I'll just tell you what some of that is. So I said, you know, the number one point is that DCS is an adversarial system. Number two is that they keep asking for more and more money. Every year they want like $50 million more money. And so in 2016, it was $754 million. In 2021, it was $930 million. That is almost $200 million more in 2021 over a 5-year period. They are always in there looking for legislation to decrease caseloads, and then when they decrease the caseload, they come in and ask for more money. The December 2020 audit determined that the children were spending more time in foster care. In January, the DCS Commissioner Nichols was doing a financial report to a committee, and she admitted that when there is a caseworker turnover, that a case can be delayed 6 months. She also admitted that they have a turnover rate, I think she said about 14 or 15%. She also admitted that most of those were in the first year. So, I mean, these are the low-level caseworkers that are working with the families, and they're turning over, and then cases get delayed. And then I also talked about the Families First Act in February 2018 is not being implemented. So I gave her that. And then I said, you know, they keep asking for more and more money, but I talked to her about Kids Count. Okay, so Kids Count is where all the stats are recorded, and the actual reported child abuse cases in Tennessee has gone down. So in 2019, Kids Count reports that there's 75,000 759. In 2020, it's down to 67,158. So they are down by like 8,000, or a good almost 13% in the reported child abuse cases. That's between 19 and 20. All right, and then also for substantiated child abuse cases right here, showed her that one. And I said in 2015, the substantiated child abuse cases were 8,730, and in 2020, it's 6,916. So that's down by like 2,000, or almost 25% as far as substantiated child abuse. Now again, remember, they keep coming back every year from 2015 to 2020, $200 million more in our money, taxpayer money. So, and then I also told her this, the stats by age show that more than 25% of the kids in foster care are ages 1 through 5. And even Commissioner Nichols said that the time had increased in foster care to almost a year and a half, like a year and 4 months. That is a long, long time for a child who's 3 or 4 years old. So then I also pulled this one, which is commitment to state custody by county. And in here, I put markers on the counties that had a rate, which is the number of children per 1,000 population. And if they had over a 6. And so I went through and I marked all those counties. And clearly it are the counties with a lower rural population that most of the kids are going into foster care. And I pointed out to Representative Weaver that her county, Smith County, call out to Smith County, they are the worst county in the whole state of Tennessee. They are the worst county for taking kids per year. So I shared that with her. And here is the bill, and just kind of how it got amended. And here's the language that I wanted to say. I want to just keep it real simple and say that at any stage of a dependency and neglect proceeding or an investigation, a court, with the consent of a parent who's a party to the proceeding, may appoint and authorize a family advocate for the parent to be present at all court and administrative proceedings to serve as an advocate for the parent in the interest of family support and reunification. That's all I want. I just want to keep it very simple so that we can start to train people. And so I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull my presentation and show you basically what I told them and how, and I said a lot in 3 minutes, and I looked at all of them and tried to see who's like paying attention. But they did a good job, you know, they listen, they're trying to learn. And you'll also, I will put up the DCS remarks too, and you'll see that they really didn't have a response to it because it was like, what can it hurt? How can it hurt to have that? It just can't hurt. I mean, I'm offering to give my time away to train people to do that. How can it hurt? I printed all of the bills that are up. So there's some interesting things that came up. Another bill that Terry put up there is that, so if you're an adoptive parent, there's a bill about there being a required immunization for a child to be placed in your home out of DCS custody. So that is interesting. So I pulled the budget information. It's starting to get dark out here. I know it doesn't quite look like it to you, but it is all around me. I pulled the budget information so I could give them exact numbers on the budget. And I also have kind of a little short outline of my training, but I didn't really go through that with them. This right here, you see this big bundle right here? This is the December 2020 audit of the Department of Children's Services. Basically saying that they're not doing timely classifications, their documentation is not good, just kind of incompetence. And it is what it is, right? So, but honestly, it's like they are not, the legislators are really just not educated in that area. So here's what we need to do. So I want you all, I know throughout the country, we have some people who are trying to help other parents, right? They just talk to them. They just try to encourage them. They find them through Facebook, through some of our groups. And thank you. And thank you, Abby. And so as parents who've been involved, I also told them that this was the national trend. There were parent peer groups in other states, that it's the trend for family support. The other thing you'll notice that I say when you see the legislative presentation, that I say, you know, I'm here so that Tennessee has healthier families, And, you know, this whole trend to foster to adopt, it's like, okay, wait a minute. I mean, I have a couple of little girls going home real soon who've been out of the home for 2 years, and I mean, I can't wait until we get past that so I can introduce you to them. But you know, sometimes it takes some time, and we've got to work with that. Oh, there's one other thing I want to show you if I can. Hang on, I hope I brought this. It's just a little thing, but this is, so I do open records requests to the department. And so I always like try to think of something really interesting, usually something I'm kind of working on. But so if it's drugs, if it's training, I need to ask them about training and drug stuff, you know, whatever. So I asked for an open records on their training for, oh gosh, where is that thing? You can see I just like have so much stuff all the time. I'm just like loaded with information. So I've got AFGAR's reports in here. I mean, I like told those legislators, I'm like, look, I study all the policies. I study all the funding. I'm just not here on this one issue. Oh my gosh, I am not going to be able to find it. So I'm going to, oh wait, here, maybe. So, I'm going to do some more lives on some of the information that I've gotten from, oh, shoot. It's like the sun is setting. It's getting darker. Darn, and I don't want to give you a spoiler. But I did a open records request on the training for prenatal exposure to substances. I want to go over that with you. It's like a 238 slide presentation, and there's some interesting things in there I want to point out to you. So, immunity for foster parents from children, that's not good. Okay, so well, let me tell you, since you asked that, Michael, I want to explain that to you a little bit. Here's the deal. Foster parents don't really have immunity, but they are independent contractors with these private foster care companies, and breaking that is so hard to do. I mean, you have to show the connection of the supervisor of the foster care agency that they participated. So you cannot just sue a foster parent. Well, you can, but you're not going to get anywhere with it. And so you want to somehow engage that the supervisor knew what was going on, or they lacked training, so you have to do that direct connection. Yeah, Keys is a great one. Keys has some horrible foster homes, making tons of money, don't train, and the supervisors engage in it. Now, what I was talking about with immunity on this bill is they put an immunity clause in for the advocate, saying that the advocate would have immunity because it was going to be presumed they were acting in good faith. Well, just technically, I have an issue with the court, with the legislature granting immunity. That goes against my grain. I don't think they have the power to do that, so I don't really like that. But the way that the advocate would run, they don't really need immunity because they're not really acting as a professional. And, you know, there's not really any liability at issue. So, smoking weed with the foster parents, yeah, that's true. So so I'm not concerned about there being an immunity clause in there. Foster CASA alienated me from my children. I know, Erin, I totally agree, it happens. Okay, so as you can see here, wait a minute, maybe I can, Light. Okay, but it's kind of grainy, so it's like getting super dark. Okay, so it is starting to get dark outside. I'm going to go through some of this training, but I just really wanted you to know these 2 things that I did today, that trying to work with the system and make some changes and just stay strong. Hang in there with me. I'm going to need some Tennessee support on getting this bill passed. I'm going to need phone calls. I'm going to need volunteers. I'm going to need your help. So we're going to start a boot camp for getting this together and making it work. All right, so y'all are going to participate. And also, just finally, if you have not done a little support Connie submission, either a letter or filled out the form, or just done your own words and language, please do that for me. I'm starting to get those all printed off and collected, and I just really need your support. Okay, so I'm going to say bye. I'm losing my light out here. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.